Who are the best targets on the fantasy football waiver wire for week 7 across positions? And what do we think of that Broncos-Chargers game on Monday night? It's time to break it down right here and right now as we get another edition of Locked On Fantasy Football.
Our Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. We're making the transition from week 6. We had our final game there. The Broncos and Chargers, what a wacky game there. It was another field goal fest, another disappointing primetime game with not a lot of points involving Russell Wilson and Denver. The Chargers escaped there. No touchdown passes for Justin Herbert in that one. Austin Eckler gets the lone touchdown. Dustin Hopkins, 4 field goals in that. So that was our outcome to close the books on week 6. Hope you didn't need a lot from the quarterbacks in that one because you didn't get it. You had Austin Eckler. You probably got what you needed out of the Chargers running back. So it's good to put a bow there on that week. And it's going to be fun to see what we get here. More bye weeks coming, some key bye weeks with the Bills, Eagles, Vikings among the teams that are off this week. So that's going to make it a little bit more challenging. We need to help you there on the waiver wire to maybe get some plug-and-play guys, maybe some stash guys for later in the season, or some injury attrition you want to take advantage of to improve your depth. We're going to get into all of that here. We'll start with wide receivers, get into quarterbacks and tight ends, and close the show with running backs and defenses as our recommendations on the waiver wire here on Locked On Fantasy Football. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. We're free and available to you on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs, the most comfortable shorts, pants, and sweatpants with built-in liners. Go to birddogs.com. Use the promo code Locked On, and boom, a free Bird Dogs rope hat you'll get with your pair of Bird Dogs. So good stuff there. We'll tell you more about Bird Dogs later in the show. It's a great company, great clothes there, and you want to get in on it for sure. All right, let's get in on the guys that you want to get in on for your fantasy football team at wide receiver with our waiver wire pickups here ahead of week number 7. The wide receiver, this is the last call. I like to say that for certain players. Alec Pierce, this is it. He's had 2 solid games in a row, and then he had the breakout game with the touchdown there against the Jaguars to win the game. So it was quiet for Pierce. He didn't get close to that 80-yard mark there until he put it over the top with a touchdown. So Michael Pittman Jr. starting to feel it. He's healthy. Pierce, things are opening up for him. Matt Ryan is playing really well here. So Alec Pierce should be rostered in all size leagues at this point. If you've been hesitant in 10 and 12 team leagues, don't just wait. And also look at him as a guy with real starting consideration here as a wide receiver 3. So Alec Pierce needs to be unavailable in all league formats now. It doesn't matter, standard, half point, full point PPR. Alec Pierce, the rookie, has looked really good. We've heard about that a lot in training camp. Now he's living up to those expectations. Just needed to get healthy. He had the concussion early. You needed Pittman on the other side. All things are kind of lining up here. They are stopped throwing as much to the tight ends. They're still involved, but Pierce clearly is the number 2. They did get Paris Campbell a little bit more involved, but Pierce clearly operating out of Campbell in terms of the importance in this passing game for the Colts. Another rookie that I'm intrigued by is Wan'Dale Robinson. We'll focus on a lot of rookies actually on this waiver wire recommendations here. So when you look at Wan'Dale Robinson, not a lot of volume, only 4 targets there, but that was his first significant action. Keep in mind, he had a knee injury early in the season, played a little bit in week 5 there, so didn't really get going until late in this offense. They had big plans for him. Now everything's lining up. No Kenny Galladay, no Sterling Shepard, no Kadarius Toney. It's just down to David Sills and Darius Slayton there at wide receiver. So Wan'Dale Robinson was bound to get a big role here, and the rookies are having an impact here for the Giants, definitely. I mean, you have Evan Neal, but it's also Robinson. It's also Daniel Ballinger. We'll get into him a little bit at tight end. But Giants, what a season so far. I mean, they're 5-1. It hasn't been pretty in the passing game, but Daniel Jones has played rather well. He just needed help from his receivers. He got that with Wandell and Ballinger for a couple touchdowns, even with fewer than 200 passing yards against the Ravens. So, again, Wandell is going to have a bigger and bigger role as we go forward. I think he is a good, versatile performer. I think he can be what Kadarius Toney has not been here so far, just unreliable and new coaching staff. So, Wan'Dale's bigger role is coming here. So 2 rookies. Again, Wan'Dale should be rostered in 12 and 14 team leagues. I think in 10 teams leagues, maybe a little bit of stretch there at this point. Now, Rondell Moore is another player I like. I just don't love it because he's not a big touchdown guy and he's more of a floor play, but he's definitely going to get some good targets here for the Cardinals with, again, the injury to Marquise Hollywood Brown. So he's going to be out a significant amount of time, maybe through the fantasy football regular season with the injury he has. So he's out. You have DeAndre Hopkins coming back, but Rondell Moore is going to be the top 3 targets here. They've kind of faded Greg Dortch and AJ Green out of this. So it's going to be a lot of Hopkins and Zach Ertz and Rondell Moore going forward as the Cardinals try to get this offense revved up here with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. So Moore is another great pickup this week. Now, if you're looking more for stash with the upside here, you can look at Jamison Williams. The Lions are going to get him back here pretty soon. They're playing for next year. They need to see what they have in this kid. So I could see the playing time of DJ Chark and Josh Reynolds get reduced in relation to see what Jamison Williams can do here as a first-round pick from Alabama. So something to watch there. The Lions offense has been pretty good so far, but they've had the injury bug hit quite a bit. They're coming off a upset or upended loss there at the Patriots where they didn't score points. So I think they're going to look for every offensive spark they can get. So watch out for Williams having a big role here pretty soon here as soon as he returns. Jahan Dotson, he's been out for a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury, could definitely return this week against the Packers. The Packers secondary is struggling here. You also have Logan Thomas hurting for the Commanders, and maybe Dotson will get a little bit more run with Terry McLaurin for Sam Limit. You also have a quarterback change that could actually hurt Dotson here going to Taylor Heineke. Heineke did favor McLaurin. He's got the better history of McLaurin, but he could, in looking at Dotson, he didn't have him last year, so that could be a guy he goes to often on the other side there, the outside, maybe more so than Samuel with the way Wentz was operating. Michael Gallup, he still might be out there in a few leagues, but I do like the Cowboys veteran here to get going with the Dak Prescott set to return here against the Lions. So speaking of that matchup with the Lions, great one this week. So plug and play for Michael Gallup. You'll see those big plays come in the pass game. Dalton Schultz may still be down here. I know Jake Ferguson did pretty well with Cooper Rush last week, but still, I think you'll see more Gallup with Noah Brown and CeeDee Lamb and 11 personnel for the Cowboys. So great matchup this week for sure to make some big plays, assuming Prescott returns there to push the ball downfield. And you'd figure this side's going to go down. Jeffrey Okudah is probably going to try to follow CeeDee Lamb a little bit, but Michael Gallup probably getting Amari Oruye, and he can dominate that matchup this week. So good streamer pickup here, Gallup for this week. Now, Chase Claypool, I do like him if Mitchell Trubisky is the quarterback, so let's watch that and maybe get some clarity on that before Sunday Night Football. Dolphins secondary struggling. Xavier Howard is hurting. Now Nick Needham is lost for the season, so they're already without Byron Jones here. So the slot is pretty weak. Chase Claypool can play big slot, can stretch the ball downfield. Now we know, well documented, that Mitchell Trubisky is struggling to get the ball to George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. They had a blow up on the sidelines there a couple of weeks ago. That apparently what led the Steelers to going with Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett is just better. That's why they did that. But Chase Claypool coming off a big game. His most productive game in a couple of years here since his rookie season. So Claypool, I know he's been the big target touchdown guy, but he's been a bit up and down. But I think he's definitely a guy helped by Trubisky, hurt by Pickett, while it's the other way around for looking at George Pickens. So when you look at that, I think Claypool has some value this week, especially with Howard still a little bit hurting. He's going to still play, but Needham's down, Jones is down. They're pretty thin. Their Keon Crossan is also hurting for Miami. So that's going to open some things up for Claypool again. Again, the chemistry with Trubisky is definitely there versus Pickens. Now, you can look at Corey Davis. It's not an exciting pickup here. They're playing the Broncos this week. That means Corey Davis will probably see a good dose of Pat Surtain too, so that's not great. But of all the receivers now with the Zach Wilson Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson should be more involved, but the Jets are running and winning with low volume. That's not going to help the wide receivers. But again, I would also keep looking at Elijah Moore. I think he's a very buy low guy at this point. They need to get him involved more. And again, those negative game scripts will come for the Jets. I don't think you'll necessarily get it this week against that Broncos sputtering offense, but something to watch there this week. Now, Taekwon Thornton in a bit of a deeper league play here. He did have a couple touchdowns against the Browns, one through the air, one on the ground. So we're seeing these Wan'Dale Robinson, Taekwon Thornton type players, these hybrid players, Rondell Moore kind of in that same vein, where these teams want to get them involved in different ways. So looking at that for sure as an option. Sky Moore, someone you can also look at here if he's available. So three more: Rondell Moore, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore. All disappointing so far this season. Rondell having a bigger role, but I think Elijah at some point is going to get going. He's carped about the targets and all that. So I think the squeaky wheel is going to get some of the grease here, but really it comes down to Garrett Wilson and these guys getting more targets from Zach Wilson. It just has been too good for the Jets. So we were counting on negative game script. That's why we're worried about Breece Hall, but now the positive game scripts have helped Breece Hall and hurt the wide receiver. So we'll see how it plays out there. But looking at Sky Moore and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster probably well managed in leagues and probably not dropped after his breakout game with the Chiefs, but still we can speculate with the other Chiefs receivers, and Moore and MVS still available in most leagues. So there's a look at your wide receivers on the waiver wire. They stand out the most as have an impact, either short-term, long-term, or someone that you can stash on your bench. So good to look at that. We do need to break down the quarterbacks and tight ends. Those are notable. The running back's not as great of a pool this week, but we'll look at that and defenses there before it's all done on this show. And we said we were going to tell you more about an exciting new sponsor here, Bird Dogs. And right now, if you enter the promo code Locked On, you can get that free rope hat there. There you can take a look at it on your screen there. If you're watching on YouTube, yeah, this is a pretty cool free promotion they have going on there if you use the promo code Locked On. I got some Bird Dogs gear of late here. I got some joggers. I got some shorts as well. I really enjoy them. Very comfortable there. I use them for my leisure activities, for walking around on weekends. And if I'm doing some light sports, I love these here from Bird Dogs. I've really enjoyed having them. And they just launched a Bird Dogs, guys, sweatpants that you can check out. They're super comfortable. Trust me. It's like that cute little Charmin bear rubbing up against your thighs. Yeah, that's how comfortable it is. You know, that comfy little bear family. Bird Dogs pants are perfect for fall golf. You might not play like Tiger Woods on a bender, but you'll feel just as good. Really comfortable, and I was just amazed, blown away. Bird Dogs joggers are higher quality than Lululemon and are $20 less. So what are we talking about here? Go buy some Bird Dogs. Still wear shorts in the winter. It doesn't matter if it's Florida or 10 degrees in New York, New England, or Chicago. They have their signature shorts with built-in liners. I got myself a pair. They're extremely comfortable. They're the most comfortable shorts in existence. So you got to get one as well. Now, if you get shorts or joggers or sweats, anything there to make you feel more comfortable this fall and winter, birddogs.com is a special offer for you. Go to birddogs.com, enter the promo code Locked On, and they'll throw in a free Bird Dogs rope hat. That's right. That's birddogs.com, promo code Locked On, and boom, a free Bird Dogs rope hat with your pair of Bird Dogs. It's the most comfortable shorts, pants, and sweatpants with built-in liners. You will not take these things off. I promise you, you want to keep them on all day with Bird Dogs. So great having them here aboard on Locked On Fantasy Football. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Sporting news, we have a tight-knit team. We have some great hires there that make it work. And we know all NFL teams are like small businesses. They got to hire the right people to make the team successful on game day. That's what you need to do as well for your business. All you have to do is add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. It's the way you can finish your season and year strong with the right team members. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, we will continue the show here on Locked On Fantasy Football in a moment. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Make sure you check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, just like Locked On Fantasy Football. All right, it's time to break down the quarterback targets on the waiver wire. This guy had been written off. We were just, what's up with this guy? He's not producing. We thought he was hyped up in this new offense. Then we saw Matt Ryan go off there against the Jaguars. They do get the Titans and that bad secondary this week on the road. So it's a rematch. So Matt Ryan feeling a little bit more. His offensive line, he dropped back more than 50 times, was not sacked once. The offensive line also got the run blocking going here for Deon Jackson. They should get Jonathan Taylor back this week. So Jackson played super sub. Michael Pittman went off there. Pierce went off. Ryan still got it to Jelani Woods and Kylan Granson at tight end. So Matt Ryan looking good here in this offense all of a sudden, and just a quick turnaround. The Colts, maybe they know a little bit about coaching offense, Frank Reich here. So as much as we complained early, they made the changes necessary here and got Pierce more involved. Now things have opened up for Paris Campbell and other receivers in this offense. So Matt Ryan is a very good pickup this week. Now, if we just said, okay, what is he going to do? People were just not looking at him at all in that Jaguars matchup, but he comes through. The negative game script still could exist there. The Colts defense, a little bit suspect here with Gus Bradley. So that could be a higher scoring game than we think this week. Colts, Titans in Nashville. Now, Justin Fields, it's a grind, but in the better matchups, he definitely comes through. We saw that against the Commanders there. It's all about his rushing ability. Maybe they let him loose a little bit more. Maybe the mini bye will help. They are playing the Patriots this week, so I'm not going to play Justin Fields against one Bill Belichick. So keep that in mind, but he's a guy, a high upside backup that you can look at there on your team in the right matchups. They're coming. There's some matchups coming, the Lions, Vikings, those type of teams. So do like Justin Fields to produce better going forward, just not this week against the Patriots. Matt Ryan, definitely you can play this week. Now, Mac Jones will watch it. Him or Bailey Zappi. I mean, Bailey Zappi went 302 there against the Browns in week 6. Mac Jones, this ankle injury might continue to mysteriously linger for Bill Belichick the way Zappi's playing. I love that thing that we're looking at. Don't worry, be Zappi. Yeah, I want more of Zappi. Zappi is making these receivers come alive. Taekwon Thornton, you have Devontae Parker getting it done here with Zappi. The tight ends, we've seen Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith do some damage here as Ramondre Stevenson in the running game set up for Zappi. So I'm not so sure I want to go after Mac Jones. I think there's a chance I would say with Zappi. I think this week the Bears should be rather run heavy with Ramondre Stevenson. The Bears much worse defense there against the run than pass. So Zappi, I think, should still be the guy. I mean, they'll bring along Jones slowly the way it's playing. So Zappi is the target more so than Mac Jones. I know that Jones can return at any time, but I don't know how you can bring him back at this stage the way that Zappi's played. I mean, first guy to win is the first 2 starts with 100 passer rating. I mean, you just are setting unprecedented things there. You're not going to take this guy out of the lineup as a hot hand. So I think the mysteriously the Jones injury will linger. So I'm going to go after Zappi. Instead, Marcus Mariota continues to have some decent value because of his running. There can get score that way. He's got enough weapons. He got the tight ends there, Michael Pruitt and Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, breaking news, scored a touchdown last week. So Marcus Mariota feeling it. He's going to have some volume this week against the Bengals. There are some games like that where volumes are going to be high there for Marcus Mariota. When he's having to run, throw a little bit more, there can be some garbage points had. Marcus Mariota's in that situation. Jimmy Garoppolo, speaking of throwing a little bit more, I think you'll see more of that from the 49ers. They're definitely going to have to put the ball up quite a bit against the Chiefs this week. I don't think they can just run over and hide there. Chiefs are going to light up their banged-up defense quite a bit. So Jimmy Garoppolo, Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl rematch there. I think 54, you'll see a lot of that stuff as well. So Garoppolo going back and forth, I think the volume is going to be high. And when the volume is high for Garoppolo, he produces. there. It's just about do the 49ers get to run heavy and dependent. I don't think that can happen, however, against the Chiefs this week. And then I would like to pick up Kenny Pickett, but the concussion question really makes it tough here. I don't think he's going to play this week against the Dolphins. So Mitchell Trubisky, I'm not interested in. But Zach Wilson, I could look at more. I'm not going to play him this week against the Broncos. It's a tough matchup. The Broncos seem to drag everyone down with Russell Wilson. I think it's going to be more Breece Hall in the running game this week. But I think Zach's going to have a little bit more value as maybe the negative game scripts happen. They didn't quite happen there against the Packers last week, but they'll happen at some point. I actually like the Jets to win the game against the Broncos, so probably not great news for Wilson and putting up numbers opposite Russell Wilson. At tight end, Robert Tunion now should be rostered in all formats, including 10-team leagues. He had 10 catches for 90 yards, but before then he was involved enough with a tight end touchdown threat there with Aaron Rodgers. Now Randall Cobb is down for a while, potentially going on IR with a high ankle sprain, so he's going to be out for a while. We know Christian Watson is hamstrung. So Tunion, by default, maybe the second most reliable receiver here. There after Al Lazard with a little bit of Romeo Doubs mixed in. So Robert Tunion should be rostered. Get 10 catches from a tight end and Aaron Rodgers, so a two-time MVP back-to-back. Trust him. You're going to go after that tight end. Tunion has had that history before in fantasy. A little bit more touchdown dependent, but they're expanding his role, which is good to see there now out of necessity in Green Bay. Now, Daniel Ballinger, I mentioned him. He looks legit. I like this rookie quite a bit, making some plays here for the Giants, kind of the old school Mark Bavaro, throwing it back to that era of tight end that kind of can do a little bit of everything there. But Ballinger getting the trust here for Danny Dimes. So maybe it's a Danny thing with Daniel Ballinger, Daniel Jones here. So there's something going on with that connection that I like. Ballinger, again, the way that tight end is right now, Tony and Ballinger are extremely attractive at this point. Now, this is a guy I'm going to move up after Monday Night Football, Greg Dulcich. So when you look at Greg Dulcich, look, he took over. Albert Okwuegbunam was declared inactive for the Broncos. So that was an interesting move. I know Rich Saubert was listed as the starting tight end, but Greg Dulcich is the inside guy. He's that move tight end from UCLA. Look, they're struggling with their other receivers, KJ Hamler, Montrell Washington. This is what they have behind Tim Patrick. And with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy healthy, Patrick down here. So they need to get a little bit more playmaking up. Dulcich and Russell Wilson seem to have chemistry. So two rookie tight ends that maybe we didn't put on our radars here. Ballinger and Dulcich have some value. Now, Hunter Henry, wide open touchdown last week, had the nice yardage game. Even with Jonnu Smith returning, Hunter Henry got going. So maybe Zappe and Henry together are making some things happen here. So that could be good here. And again, the two tight ends were still a little bit more in play there for the Patriots last week. I'm not going to go after Jonnu Smith, but Hunter Henry still looks like the alpha and productive there. Now, Evan Ingram has been rather disappointing in the Jaguars offense just because they involve so many guys. Travis Etienne in the passing game, Zay Jones. But Zay Jones a little bit banged up. Marvin Jones hurting a little bit as well, missed last week's game. Evan Ingram gets some more run this week. And it's a revenge game for Evan Ingram against the Giants this week. So like that maybe they'll try to get him going into the end zone this week. Now, Cole Kmet probably should have had a touchdown catch against the Commanders, but that was a play. Remember, Justin Fields threw it up and it got smacked up in the air and intercepted. He should have thrown it over the guy to get it to Cole Kmet for his first touchdown of the year, but we didn't see it. So Cole Kmet, I still think has some value. The Bears offense is going to get better. Not this week, however, against Kyle Duggar and the Patriots. They allowed one big play to David Njoku, but contained him overall for limited volume days. So not feeling it with Kmet this week, but it has some value there. Now, we were on Will Dissly a little bit, but the Seahawks decided to pivot more to Noah Fant. He's in a little bit more. So we had Dulcich, Fant's replacement there in Denver, but don't forget about Noah Fant himself. I mean, a good talent here. Had some tight end value at times last year before being traded the Russ Wilson deal from the Broncos to the Seahawks. So Fant may be establishing himself more and more as the key third target behind DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett for Geno Smith there in Seattle. All right, so there's your look at your quarterbacks and tight ends to target on the waiver wire for help there in your starting lineup and your bench here ahead of week 7. We'll close the show looking at running backs and defenses out there that you should think about either stashing or streaming. We'll do that in our final segment here on Locked On Fantasy Football. I do need to tell you about daily fantasy football made easy, and really it doesn't get easier than Prize Picks. It's a good chance to target games and players and look at the Prize Picks projections that are available and just try to go beat them or go under them to win there. And it's easy, and you can do that with all these games. And maybe last week you looked at Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson under the passing yardage. You would have been happy with that, as well as everything with the receivers disappointing in that game from Mike Williams to Cortland Sutton. So now you got to think about what you're going to do for week 7. I love their games. They're so easy there at Prize Picks. Card entries, you can add so many every week, and it's a good way to win without being overcomplicated there. Pick 2 to 5 players, and they go score more or less than their Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. It's no competing against other people, just you versus projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. That's not just the NFL, NBA tipping off here. NHL, we know, has dropped the puck. MLB postseason, PGA, college football, college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less at PrizePicks.com. It's that easy, safe, and fast withdrawals, and PrizePicks is currently operational in more than 30 states and Canada. It's easy to get in on PrizePicks right now. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON and sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 only at PrizePicks.com. Daily fantasy made easy. All right, time to close the show looking at our recommendations at running back and defense here for week 7 waiver wire. Rashad White, look, Leonard Fournette's getting a lot of run. He's red hot in this Buccaneers offense, but Rashad White is a clear backup. Make sure you handcuff Leonard Fournette because Fournette did a lot of volume. He's got the injury, durability issues in the past. Make sure you lock that up. Now, Deon Jackson, he might be a one-hit wonder, one-week wonder here with that explosive game against the Jaguars. They're all lined up perfectly. Philip Lindsay, they didn't fully trust to have the big role. They gave Jackson all the role there with Jonathan Taylor and Naeem Hines missing another game. Hines might be closer to returning. I expect Taylor to return. He's very close to playing last week. So could be just 1 week for Deon Jackson. But if you're a Taylor person, it's been hard, right? You tried to look at Naeem Hines was going to do the backup. I was going to look at maybe Philip Lindsay, but now all of a sudden it's Deon Jackson. So handcuffs are a hard business, man, especially if there's multiple injuries there for the team. But Deon Jackson clearly earned his right to be the top backup there for Jonathan Taylor overall with his performance there against the Jaguars. Now, Kenny Drake, we're going to watch that situation. J.K. Dobbins playing through knee injury. We'll see there. They do have Gus Edwards also returning, so Drake might be the 1 week guy that you might play this week against the Browns, and then maybe look for longer term with Gus Edwards. So we'll watch that situation with J.K. Dobbins here in relation to Drake. Drake looked really good against the Giants, explosive, big, strong. Showed that he had some fresh legs there. So I wonder if they're going to make the pivot to try to get a little spark in the running game, just like what they did last year with the D'Angelo Williams and Latavius Murray acquisitions in Baltimore. Now, looking at the Broncos backfield, it's wide open. Speaking of Latavius Murray, I mean, you got to put him high on the list here with Mike Boone. Boone was still the main guy here, but Melvin Gordon mysteriously got benched there. You saw a lot of Latavius Murray. He looked actually really good. He just seems to be kind of the old school Jeff George, right? The guy that at a position you can plug and play. It doesn't matter how old he is. You're going to get some value from his production here. So we're going to watch that for sure there with Latavius Murray. He's 32 years old, but if he's in a timeshare with Boone and Gordon is faded or on his way out here, this is a really good situation for either Boone or Murray to really run with here. And it's a good matchup this week against the Jets at home. Jalen Warren probably need him for Najee Harris insurance only. Harris had a little bit more life there against the Buccaneers. I think Harris will continue against the Dolphins. So Jalen Warren, a pure handcuff situation. Isaiah Pacheco, same thing. You're looking at the fading of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but Pacheco definitely has some volume. And now you're looking at Joshua Kelly. We liked him a little bit there before last week, or really Monday night when we saw more of Sonny Michel. I think that was more situational. I think Kelly is still the backup they're looking at. They didn't have Isaiah Spiller, the rookie, active for the game, so there's something to watch there. But Kelly, just be buyer beware there, deep stash there. Same thing with James Cook if he's still out there in your leagues. Zach Moss was made inactive last week, so Singletary Devin has run pretty well here, but it's a buy, so people might forget about stashing James Cook for some insurance. Same thing with Kenneth Gainwell. The Eagles are on a buy, so maybe an opportunity to stash him. You also have two Falcons there that you can look at, Caleb Hundley and Avery Williams. I don't think it's given to Tyler Algier without Cordell Patterson. Unfortunately, I think this is going to pivot right to Patterson as no one's really dominated. They've been more piecemeal in committee here with the Falcons playing off Mariota's running. We're also going to speculate a little bit on the Panthers here. The Christian McCaffrey trade rumors are out there, so we'll see where he lands up. Is it going to be the Eagles? Is it going to be the Chiefs? Is it going to be Bills? It's going to change the landscape of some fantasy football fortunes there in the backfield. So what's left here, Dante Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. I think I would target Foreman a little bit more than Hubbard there. Hubbard more the pass catcher, but Foreman get the high leverage opportunities in the red zone. Then you can look at Terry Davis-Price, Elijah Mitchell, probably an IR on some team's bench there. But Davis-Price there could be carving out the second role after Jeff Wilson lost the fumble there last week against the Falcons that cost them the tone of that game early. So something to definitely watch out here with that 49ers backfield always in flux here with who's going to be the lead guy because of injuries and attrition. All right, for defense and special teams, why not look at the Dolphins-Steelers game? This is in Miami on Sunday Night Football here. The Steelers might be going back to Mitchell Trubisky. If not, it's rookie Kenny Pickett. You could have Tua Tagovailoa. That could really squash the Steelers' value, but you could also have a Teddy Bridgewater playing or Tyquan or Skylar Thompson. I'll say it. We were getting Taekwon Thornton and Tristan Thompson. We wanted to get to Skylar Thompson. That's how much we hope he doesn't play against the Steelers this week to help our fantasy prospects. But if it is him in there, then the Steelers defense, after doing a number on Tom Brady and the Bucs, have a little bit more appeal this week. You can also look at the Cardinals at home against the Saints. The Saints have run all over some teams, but Cardinals can put them in a negative game script and tee off as they had a nice game last week there. So you look at that. You look at the Bengals. They do have a pretty good matchup here this week against the Falcons. The Falcons have done a little bit more to overachieve, but at least the Bengals can push them off into a negative game script to get some sacks and takeaways there. The Giants in a pretty good spot against the Jaguars, so versus Trevor Lawrence. I also like the Jaguars in that game, maybe wreaking some havoc against a limiting passing game with Daniel Jones. And then you look at two more. The Jets, on the road against the Broncos. Jets played gangbusters like against the Packers on the road. So you got to feel that they can do some things to frustrate Russell Wilson there under Robert Saleh with their secondary, with Sauce Gardner, their pass rush playing pretty well this year, better than expected overall with the two big changes here in New York. And finally, the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a risky proposition here. The Raiders defense is not great, but they do get Davis Mills on the road. And that's always a place to think about playing your fantasy football streaming defenses here in 2021 and 2022. All right, so that's your look at the waiver wire here, the recommendations, the advice you need to know, whether you're looking for short-term plays, long-term stashes, or something in between. We've got you covered here on Locked On Fantasy Football. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Now, our next episode, we'll start looking at the games there of week number 7, the breaking down the matchups. We'll do it for quarterback and running back. Then we'll come back with wide receivers, tight ends, and streaming defenses there on Thursday show. So double dose of matchup Wednesday, matchup Thursday, your start, sit-em advice, and your rankings for the week. Now make your second listen to the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis you need in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Check out the Decider column that comes out there. We'll break that down in depth for you Wednesday and Thursday here on the show. Good luck on your waiver wire claims, and we'll check you out then.